How bad do you think the rise of Islam is going to get in America?
This is one thing Charlie was very concerned about. We talked a lot about Islam. We have a First Amendment which says that you have freedom of religion. But that First Amendment does not give one group the freedom of religion to take away the freedom of religion from everybody else. Not all Muslims think this way. Many Muslims are for freedom of religion. But if you look at the top Muslim countries in the world, they don't really have religious freedom.
What will be the future of Islam in America? Check out this clip over here with Frank Turek on the rise of Islam in America. We'll watch his clip together and then we'll talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
This is not a prophetic question, but maybe it is. What do you see? How bad do you think the rise of Islam is going to get in America?
This is one thing Charlie was very concerned about. We talked a lot about Islam. And he's absolutely right when he said that Islam is not compatible with the United States Constitution. And some of you are going to go, oh, I can't believe you said that.
Say it again.
Look. What's that?
Say it again.
We have a First Amendment which says that you have freedom of religion. But that First Amendment does not give one group the freedom of religion to take away the freedom of religion from everybody else. In other words, it's not a self-defeating amendment. Now,
True.
I always have to say this because it's true. Not all Muslims think this way, right? Many Muslims are for freedom of religion. But if you look at the top Muslim countries in the world, they don't really have religious freedom. You can't have a church in Saudi Arabia. You can't have one in Iran, not legally anyway. You can't listen to the I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist podcast in Yemen. Why? Because they've politically ruled it out. So if you look at the Quran and the history of Islam and the history of Muhammad, you don't find religious freedom. You either see it our way. If you don't, you're either going to be a second-class citizen or you are going to lose your life. Do all Muslims believe this? No. But by just example, when Muslims gain a majority in any area, normally Sharia law is put into place, and the freedoms that we all enjoy go away. So we love Muslims, and we want them to know the truth. So we have to do a better job of talking to Muslims about the truth. And if you go to our podcast from about 2 months ago, I did 2 long podcasts with Jay Smith. Jay Smith is a brilliant scholar. He's a Christian, but he's a scholar of Islam. And I can't go into details here, but he points out that the historical evidence for the Quran, the historical evidence for Muhammad, and the historical evidence for Mecca are extremely weak, that even many Muslim scholars are beginning to admit it. Do you know that we didn't get one standardized Quran until 1924? Did you know there were 30 Qurans in 1924? I'm not talking about translations, I'm talking about versions. You could go to ChatGPT, even they'll tell you the truth about this. Type it in right now. How many versions of the Quran were there in 1924? There were 30, and the Egyptian government picked one because they wanted one to teach to their school kids, and they didn't know which one to pick. It wasn't until 1985 that the Saudi Arabian government said, we're going to use that version to be the worldwide version. And the manuscript evidence for the Quran is extremely poor.
People ask the question, how far will Islam grow in America? And beyond that question is usually a deeper fear. Will America stay America? Let me start with something that I want to say clearly. Muslims are human beings made in the image of God. Many are peaceful neighbors, loyal citizens, and sincere people of faith. They deserve respect and protection and equal rights under American law. But there's the other truth that we have to say as well, calmly and honestly. Not every religious idea, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or any other, fits with the principles of a free society. In America, we don't judge people for their faith, but we are allowed, indeed required, to judge ideas by whether they support liberty and human dignity. Now, one fact that surprises many people that was mentioned in this video, the Quran, as most Muslims around the world read it today, was heavily standardized through modern printing, especially with the 1924 Cairo edition. That Cairo printing project, backed by scholars, intentionally chose one reading tradition, the Hafs reading, and aimed to stop confusion in schools caused by multiple printed forms and variations in verse numbering and layout. In other words, it was designed to reduce the circulation of differing printed versions and bring uniformity. Now, to be fair, Muslims will tell you, often sincerely, that these were readings more than different books. And that's a serious point. But the key takeaway is still important for the American conversation. Islam is not one monolithic block. There are multiple streams of interpretation. And the way a text is standardized and taught shapes how it's understood in public life. Now, so what does that mean for America? It means this. We can respect Muslims while still rejecting any interpretation of Islam that conflicts with the American promise of freedom, especially two freedoms that are non-negotiable in the United States. First is the freedom of religion, meaning that the freedom to choose, to change, or reject religion without fear. In many Muslim-majority countries, that freedom is not fully protected. One simple, measurable fact, as of 2019, Pew Research found apostasy laws against leaving your religion in 22 countries, concentrated mainly in the Middle East and North Africa and parts of Asia Pacific. And the penalties can be severe. For example, the United States State Department reports that Mauritania's criminal code mandates the death sentence for apostasy and blasphemy, even if not always carried out. Now, I'm not saying every Muslim supports these laws. Many do not. But I am saying this. When a society normalizes punishing people for changing beliefs, that's not compatible with American constitutional culture. Second is freedom of speech and open debate, including criticism of religion. Many countries have laws against blasphemy, laws that criminalize what you can say about religion. Pew found that blasphemy laws were present in a large share of countries worldwide in 2019. America is different. Here, the answer to offensive speech is more speech, not prison, not mobs, not fear. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a mature moral position. On the one hand, protect Muslims as citizens and neighbors, no harassment, no suspicion by association, no hatred. That's not American, and it's not godly. Secondly, insist that American public life is governed by American principles, the Constitution, equal rights, and liberty of conscience. And thirdly, be honest that Islam includes interpretations that can be illiberal. And Americans have every right to say respectfully but firmly, not here, not in this country, not on our watch. I often think of the great test of a civilization. Can it welcome the stranger without losing its soul? America can if we remember that our soul, or what our soul actually is. America's best self is not one religion runs the state. America's best self is a state that protects faith, that protects conscience, and protects the individual from coercion. So yes, Islam may grow in numbers. That's a demographic question. But the real question is spiritual and civic. Will America grow in clarity? Will we be kind enough to respect people, but strong enough to defend freedom? Because the future does not belong to those who shout the loudest. It belongs to those who love their neighbor and love liberty enough to preserve it. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.